Hey, I'm John Simmons from Main Street Throw Shop, and this is a masterclass in disc design and what those numbers actually mean. So when you play disc golf, you're going to find that there's drivers, mid-range, fairway drivers, putters, anything that you can possibly think of, that's what is being made. So where do I start and how do these numbers, what do they mean and how do they work? So when you grab a disc, you're going to find that there are four numbers: speed, glide, turn, and fade. So speed is a number that ranges from about 1, which is typically reserved for putters, to 15, which is stupidly fast, very aerodynamic disc, and you use those as drivers. And basically that number is kind of an indicator of how hard do I need to throw it to get maximum result. The higher the number, the faster and harder you have to throw it for it to be able to hold a line and go down the fairway. So most beginners should start with mid-range numbers, like around 7 to 8. Okay, so the second number is glide. And glide is an indicator of how well the disc kind of floats in the air. All discs are like a wing. They're curved on the top and flat on the bottom, and they fly much like an airplane wing, but they rotate, and that's what gives them the momentum to get from point A to point B. Glide is a number that tells you how well can I just kind of hold out on my own. Okay, you'll find that low glide discs require an awful lot of force to get them to be able to go from A to B. High glide discs are great for long shots with a backwind because they glide so well, they just catch that air and they just keep going. So when you're a beginner, you're going to want a disc that is approximately a 5 or a 6 glide because it gives you better lift and increases your distance. The third number is turn, which we're going to skip for 1 minute. Well, maybe more than 1 minute. The fourth number is something called fade, which is a number that relates to how long does it take me to get to the ground when I finally ran out of energy. So, okay, that's okay. So, with fade, what you're going to find is that with drivers, you're going to have a very long fade number, like 3, or if they go up to 4, they might. With putters, you're going to see something along the lines of 1 or 2 because they drop fast, and that's what you want in an approach in a putter. You don't want it to keep fading out past the pin. You want it to hit the ground and stop. So the third number is turn. So turn is an indicator of basically what are you going to do, what's the disc going to do when thrown with power during its flight. Okay, so when you have this number can range from a positive into negatives. The highest turn that I've seen is a positive 2. The lowest turn that I've seen in the store so far is a -5. Turn is a number that tells you how straight am I going to go when I'm released with force down the fairway. So another way of calling it, something else that they use, or another way of saying it is high speed turn. So when the disc is going under speed, how much turn does it actually do throughout the air? Okay, so when you throw a disc, any of them, driver, fairway, putter, if you're throwing right hand, backhand, because the nature of the spin of the disc is going to pull left. And that's every disc. If you're throwing forehand, then the disc is rotating the opposite direction. It's going to pull right if you're using the right hand. Everything is backwards with the left hand. So you need to know that because I'm a right hand, backhand thrower, and I tend to be biased toward explaining in that degree. So when I throw a high-speed driver with a turn of 0, this is kind of the direction that I expect for it to do. it has practically no turn. It's never a straight line. It will go out just a little bit. Gravity works, by the way. It will go out just a little bit and then come and follow this slight S curve when it's a turn of 0. So as you increase the turn, what you get is an exaggerated S curve. This would be, in ideal world, the same disk. We've just decreased the turn to -2. It gives a larger S curve. Okay? What this means in real life is that disks with ultra-low turn are much easier to get to go straight. They have better resistance to being pulled left if you're right-hand backhand. Or if you're left-hand backhand, they have less resistance to pull right. Okay, so another consideration with disks is how round is the disk going to be? I mean, obviously they're round this way, but I mean round like this. So you're going to find that some disks are much flatter than others. For the sake of example, this Aviar is very, very flat on the top. And the turn is rounder on the top. Okay? So, as a tip, when you're throwing on a field, if there's wind, you'll need to account for the wind when you're throwing. Flat top discs or discs with flatter tops tend to do better into headwind. Round top discs tend to do better with the backwind. But you also have to consider the glide of the disc as well. There's so many factors to take into consideration. Sometimes it's more of an experiment. So throw some plastic and see what happens and decide which disc is best in that specific situation. So the other thing is that all of the numbers are interrelated. So when you start with a putter, an extreme putter, this is the bird. Its numbers are 1, 1, 0, 2. 1 being the lowest speed there is. 1 meaning there is really no glide at all. 0 meaning there is no turn. And 2 meaning I'm going to just drop like a stone. So when you throw this disc, it's designed to do two things. It goes straight and then it stops. So you can see that the edge of this disc is very, very broad. Now when you get into fairway drivers and drivers, they look more like a discus instead of a frisbee. So these numbers are very, very different. The turn is a 12, 6, minus 3, 2, and the cheetah is a 6, 4, minus 2, 2. So when you look at the speed of the cheetah, it's a slower disc than the turn. In other words, it's just not as aerodynamic. It requires less rotational energy to get it to go straight or to go away from you, which is kind of the idea, than a disc that is a 12 speed, which requires a lot of rotational energy for it to hit the glide and the glide and the turn numbers that are on the disc. So as you reduce or increase the speed, the other numbers become either more or less exaggerated. Okay, so with a putter with a speed of 1, the numbers are very much in effect still, but it's much harder to get them to do what they say they're going to do because it's not aerodynamic. As you get more aerodynamic, these numbers become more exaggerated. So a 6, 4, minus 2, 2, it doesn't have a lot of glide, but because it has a lower speed, it's easier to get it to do some glide because it doesn't require as much energy to hit that rotational maximum that it needs to be able to do the numbers or to act like the numbers on the bars. So a 12.6 minus 3.2 requires a lot of rotational energy for it to exhibit a 6 glide and a minus 3 turn. So that's where and why you start with something that's easier to throw. You will get better results, it will go straighter, farther, and as you master the disc, that's when you start looking at higher numbers. Most people play with discs that are around the 11 area. They get to about 11 and they kind of hit a maximum because it's very difficult to get the disc to rotate fast enough to make the numbers work in the way that they should. So if you have any questions, if you would like a demonstration, then come by Main Street Throw Shop, or you can check out Flight Club. It's a free league that meets on Tuesdays. We alternate between Milliken and Miami Hamilton. Again, it's 5:30, either at Milliken or Miami Hamilton. We have experience through beginners. The experienced people will definitely help the beginner people understand how discs work. We have a program through the Lane Public Library. You can look that up on the Lane Public Library website to see when we'll be meeting. I think the next one will be at Milliken, and after that will be in Fairfield. So thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you on the course.